What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. I want to start this video by saying to the person that's probably going to be reviewing this, the YouTube employee, this is not a firearm, this is an air gun. So in this video, I'm just going to take my old B3. It's been needing some love for a while. We're just going to do a quick cleaning. I'm going to take it apart, see what the inside's looking like. I've not taken this apart for about a year, over a year now. So I'm curious to see what it looks like on the inside since I've shot it so much. This has already gotten out of hand. Since I took the rifle apart, this is what the stock looks like. Super simple. There's two screws here. There's one here that holds the action in, then there's one that holds the trigger guard on. There's two that held this little buckle, and then there's two flathead screws there. So that part is super simple. Since I've already got this rifle apart and it's been a year since I took it apart last time, it's probably going to be another year before I do this again. So I thought today might be a good day to put another coat of pine tar on the stock and let it be drying. I've just got this old pomade container. This is what I used when I had hair in the Marine Corps. And it was cheap and everywhere, and I like the tins too. It's a Murray's pomade. And then I've got about a 50% mixture of turpentine and this pine tar for like horses' hoofs. Okay, here we are. We've got our stock. We've got our super sticky mixture that I'm going to try to keep off my hands so that I don't get it everywhere on my camera. I've just got some fine steel wool. This is probably not the best stuff, but I'm using what I got today, and I don't really have to worry about anything drying in this finish. The turpentine is just going to make the pine tar go down inside of the wood grain a little bit. And that's all I really want, is just some of that waterproofing quality of the pine tar and some of the penetration of the turpentine. If it's really cold, it's about 40 degrees here today. If it's really cold while you're doing this specific type of finish on a stock, you can get a small torch and just heat the stock up a little bit, and that'll help the turpentine and the tar kind of do their thing inside of the wood grain. And then once this dries, once I wipe it off and this isn't super sticky, I'll probably just go over it with a coat of the furniture polish. These are really easy to take apart. I'm going to take off the bolt that holds the cocking arm off. This one has an anti-bear trap safety, so I'm pretty sure, I'm going off of memory here, but I'm pretty sure that I can't get the cocking arm out with the safety installed. Let's see. Nope. That comes right out. Then your anti-bear trap piece right here, there is a, sorry if it just got really dark on you. Clouds are messing with me today. I guess I should just set my camera to auto ISO. Then your anti-bear trap is just one screw. This trigger has a spring right here. You can just take it off by pushing up on the spring and letting it loose. Really simple design. Then move your safety forward, and that should free it up. I have to take this C-clip off right here to get that pin out. The reason I have this purple yoga mat down there is just in case I dropped one of these out here on this porch. But that's going to free up our spring right there. So there's really no tension except for the spring on the inside. I don't think I have to take that one out, but I do have to take this one out. This is just going off of the amount of scratch marks on here. When you're taking a C-clip or a C-clip off, put your thumb over it so it doesn't go flying. There's our second C-clip for our trigger, and I should be able to pull that out. I'm just going to push all these little pins out. I'll show how to put this back together if the disassembly is hard. Most of the time, taking stuff apart is not the hard part of a job. But I think with these, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I don't have to take this last pin out. So you can leave that pin with the safety spring on there. And then the only thing holding the spring in on this rifle, and I'm going to go ahead and give my little spacer speech there. I've got a better spacer, but I've misplaced it. I'm using the shock bushing out of a Harley-Davidson Sportster. So if you're going to do this with some kind of clamp like this, make sure that the spacer, it's got to be concentric, it needs to be in a straight line, but it also needs to be as big as possible for the spring guide because of the pressure that you're pushing up against your plastic spring guide. But this will work fine for today because this is a low powered air rifle. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tension on there, make sure it's centered up as best as I can get it. And this spring compressor, I got my spring compressor from Optics Planet. It's like 2 years ago. This is called a Sun Optics spring compressor, but it was missing some parts when I got it, but it works pretty good. But I just push that pin out. That's what holds your spring and your piston in. And now I'm going to just back that off. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to clean in here. I'm going to apply some good fresh lubricant. This is kind of the dangerous part. So on a high powered air rifle, you want to maybe have something covering this or a better spacer system, but I've got it strapped down here. But just be safe. This is the dangerous part. This is a compressed spring, so I don't run out of spring compressor. Okay, we're good. It's gonna be all right. Okay, so this doesn't have much pressure on it at all. I'm going to go ahead and pull this out because I've run out of spring compressor. And then it's not under tension, so I can take it out of the spring compressor now. Okay, sorry for all the weird camera angles and bad videography. I'm doing my best today. I've got the action out of the spring compressor, and I'm just going to take it out and let you guys see what it looks like. So that's after about a year of use. There's quite a bit of wear on the plastics part of the spring guide, but I'm not going to replace it or anything. There's not a ton of, there's some metal shavings, but not a lot of nastiness coming off of that. Spring looks in good condition. And then on these underlevers, there's a combustion tube and the piston. This one has a leather seal. There's just little bits of leather everywhere, but it actually looks okay. There's quite a bit of leather on there, but that's not going to hurt anything. And I honestly don't want to pull this all the way out, but let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Because these leather seals, I don't think I can get another one of these. I could swap it over to synthetic seal, but I don't want to. And how I'm cleaning it is just with a wire brush, just getting the junk off. I think the reason that this gun shoots so good is this leather seal. Yeah, I just busted all that stuff up. Now I'm going to take my one rag that I have. Our stock is almost to the point where I can wipe it down, so it's been about 10 minutes, I'd say. So I'm just going to wipe that junk off. I'm not going to clean down inside the piston. The spring goes in there. The only thing that's really in there is pieces of leather. It's not going to hurt anything. And this is my combustion tube. It looks fine. I replaced the breech seal last year when I did this. Down in there looks good. I'm not even going to mess with that. And what I'm going to do with this is just put a little bit of silicone oil on that and put a dusting of super lube on this, and then push the piston back up in the combustion tube, and that's going to be all that we're going to do. Silicone lube, I use super lube. It's super cheap compared to like name brand stuff, and I'm putting 1 drop on there. That's it. I've learned my lesson. And that's basically just to help the seal get back into our combustion tube. Then my lubrication for the piston is going to be a mixture of super lube and a little bit of moly in this pellet tin, just an old JSB pellet tin. And I've got like a paintbrush that I stole from my kids, and I'm going to put about that much on there. It's a tiny amount, and that's just going to be for the outside of the piston. You don't want to go crazy here, because if you're going to get detonation or dieseling or combustion or whatever you want to call it, this is where you're going to get it. This is where I normally overdo it, and then my guns don't run right for like 100 shots. So just want to get it a clean, even, thin coat of lubrication on your piston. Really, you don't have to do this to air rifles that much. Once you get one, after the initial break-in period, you might have to really do some work to it. Like you can probably see where I filed off burrs on the piston last time. But after you do that initial take down and tune, you really don't have to do that much to an air rifle like this, especially if they're running good. So I'm just sliding the piston back into the combustion tube, and you can actually, it's a pretty neat little design. I'm going to put a little bit of super lube, just what's left over. Let's get a little bit more, but I'm just going to put a little bit on the outside of our combustion tube, because this actually does go back and forth inside of the air rifle. Okay, and then that's that. This part will go forward with your pellet in there. This is the breech seal. It's backwards from brake barrels, and then your piston just goes that far to make the air pressure. That's pretty neat. But while we're out here, let's just go put one. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 drop of silicone on the breech seal. And this has super lube on it. It's not going to hurt your breech seal. This is all synthetic lubricants. This is not going to hurt any seals. So, okay, so that's done. We're going to set that aside. Our spring is actually in really good shape. I'm just going to wipe it off. Just a quick wipe down with a rag. This actually looks really good. There's some leather and stuff down in there, but I ain't even going to worry about it. As long as it's not metal, it's fine. And then you can take your brush and just brush it onto your spring. You don't have to get crazy with this. If you put a thin coat on there, it's going to move around every time you shoot it. So just a thin dusting. And you can even put like one big glob of it in there, and it's going to move around and lube it just fine. But not too much, or you'll be making fire. But yeah, that's all for the spring, the piston, and the tube on a B3. B3s are really simple. And this is my spring guide. There is some wear here, and there's some metal shavings on there. I think it's just from probably the cocking arm. That's normally where you see the most damage. But this spring guide is, there's one of these that was worn down right there. But it's okay. You could remake this out of metal, I think, but this works fine. I'm just going to give it a dusting of super lube. That's mostly for your spring right here. I'm going to put that there. That's where your spring rides. And then I'm just going to dust the outside of it just to ease with assembly. And then on the inside of your combustion tube on your gun, you're just going to shove something through there with like a big cleaning patch. I use a shotgun cleaning rod and like a wad of patches. So that's what I'm going to do now, is just clean that out, and then we'll clean the barrel out while there's nothing in here, and you can go from this end and clean the barrel that way. You don't really want to clean a barrel through the crown. Okay, what I'm going to use to clean it is this Hoppy's Air Pistol Air Rifle pellet gun cleaning kit. I've already wiped out the inside of the combustion tube where it rides. I've already wiped that out. And these air rifle cleaning kits come with a wire brush. I'm not going to use that. They do come with regular gun oil. That works fine for air gun barrels. It's got some cleaning patches and the cleaning rod. But these air gun kits are like $10, and they work really good for 177 caliber air rifles. I'm just going to put a drop or two down through there, or 4 or 7, and just kind of let that run through there real quick. And as that is happening, our stock is still a little too tacky to to start rubbing on, but with pine tar on the stock, it's going to be sticky for a little while, at least till we rub on it and put some wax on it, just like that. You don't really want to push through the crown end ever, if you can ever help it. You can get by with going through the crown end too, just be really careful. But yeah, squirted some gun oil out the end of it, but it's not super nasty. It's got a little rust, a little junk in there. But gun oil will break apart rust. You don't have to use crazy solvents. But I've never had good luck with polishing a bore, ever. Every gun that I've done it to never shot after. So my personal opinion is skip that. A couple more patches and yeah, once they start coming out clean, then you're done cleaning the barrel. You don't have to go crazy with it. You don't have to put any kind of special sauce in there. That's pretty much it, other than putting it back together, which, yeah, we're about to do that. Okay, so this is what the stock is looking like. It's tacky now. It's dry enough for me to love on, so I think I'm just going to finish this before I get back down on the ground. It's got a bunch of little dingleberries in there and all kinds of stuff. That stuff doesn't matter. Put my one glove on. And this stuff is sticky. They use it to cheat in baseball. That's how sticky it is. They put it on bats, and when the pitchers put it on their hands, they can manipulate the spin of the ball, and it's considered cheating. It's really sticky stuff. So you can even, with pine tar and turpentine, you can put coat after coat after coat, especially in the summertime. If you're doing a stock job like this, you can just layer them on there for days and let them dry forever. And what I like to do, I don't have it over here with me, but is to mix in linseed oil with that process that I did, especially if I have enough time to let it settle in there. But it just darkened the stock up. Okay, so this is the beeswax polish that I use. I've got a few different ones. I got this off of Amazon for like 10 bucks. It was handmade, or maybe Etsy. I think I got this off of Etsy. But anyway, just put a little bit on your finger, like a tiny amount, and then you just rub it into your stock with your hands. It's the only thing that's been bad that we've really messed with has been that turpentine. It's not going to hurt you that bad. But you just want to rub in that furniture polish, and then until it gets warm, basically, until it melts in there. You don't have to use a lot. You just want to spread it out. The furniture polish, you can use any furniture polish. You can use paste. You can use Johnson & Johnson paste. As long as it has some beeswax and as long as it has some orange oil extract, that's basically what I look for. But yeah, any old regular furniture polish will work. But I put maybe like, I don't know, like half of a teaspoon on my fingertip, like the amount that you would use for toothpaste, like about that much. And yeah, all of that fit on that entire stock. So that is our pine tarred and waxed stock. And it just darkens it up a little bit, and it's a little more waterproof, and it feels really nice, and it smells good. So I'm going to set this out in the sun. We'll put the air rifle back together. Okay, let's put this air rifle back together. We've got all of our cleaned and lubed parts here. I just put some Rimmel on there. When you're putting this together, you want to make sure the cocking slot and the holes in your piston line up, and you also want to make sure that the spring guide is oriented the right way. That just makes it to where the gun can't pop out, these little pieces. Put our spacer back in there, and then start compressing the spring. Kind of got it in there straight. Again, this is a low powered air rifle. I know I keep saying that, but if you're doing this with a spacer like I'm having to do on any kind of like C-clamp or something, make sure your spacer fits the back of your spring guide a little bit better than what mine is doing today, because this could theoretically pop out and hit me right in the face. So we got some tension there. Now what I'm going to do is, as I'm pushing it in there, I still want to make sure that these are lined up, this is lined up, and I'm just trying to line up that hole for the pin to go through. Okay, if you've pushed your spring compressor all the way in, you might have to line your hole back up like that. It's not a big deal. If you push it in and you still can't see it, this is just rim oil. If you still can't see it, then just take it back out, start over, not a big deal. That's our pin. Sometimes on this you might have to give it a little tap. Use a small hammer. You don't want to be using a big hammer with any kind of air guns. And then that's in there. So realistically, we can not use the spring compressor at all for the rest of this job. So cock and arm screw. Let's go ahead and wipe that down. None of this stuff looks rusty. That's not part of the gun. And then our trigger. This trigger is actually getting kind of light, so looking for any kind of burrs or anything like that. I think it'll be okay. Other air guns, you can kind of mess with lubricants on your trigger to smooth that out. What I'm going to do now is just drop this down in there. There's a cleaning patch. Drop this down in there. And we're going to put in the bottom pin. I'm not going to put the clamp or the C-clip back on there yet. I'm just going to try to get everything where it goes and then start putting it back together. So let's go ahead and put our cocking arm back in before we get too crazy into the trigger here. So I've got the bottom pin that's basically just holding the trigger in there. Pretty sure it's supposed to slide down behind that back pin. Let me go ahead and take that out. There we go. Yeah, so your bottom piece of your trigger sear needs to fit under that pin that we left there. Line that up. Put that in. Okay, so that's going to be how the trigger pretty much sits without any pins in there. So let's go ahead and put this top pin back in there. It's going to be one of these without a C-clip. Now we have our anti-bear trap we have to start thinking about. So our two small pins. And the B3s without safeties and anti-bear traps, they're way simpler than this. So I've got my two pins. I've got my third small pin without a fastener that just fell out. Should have put some super lube on that one. But I've got these in there. I've got the bottom pin without the C-clip, and then I've got my safety pin that did not come out when we took the gun apart, and I've got the anti-bear trap pushed up in there correctly. And now I'm just going to rotate the big safety spring out of the way. I'm going to put in this big pin here. I just moved this. Okay, so now this is how it goes together, and the only thing we're really missing is the two C-clips and this spring. This spring is under quite a bit of tension actually, but you just push out that bottom pin to latch the bottom of the spring, and then you're going to take the top of the spring and push it down, way down behind the safety. And there's your safety, there's your bottom pin, you've got everything in there. Now all we have to do is put these C-clips back on to this side. You might stab yourself in the finger, but that's it for that. So that's the trigger. The only thing we have left for it is this little two spring deal and the anti-bear trap tensioner piece. This is the biggest pain on these things. You have to push these springs collapsed and then drop your fastener down in there and then get it started while holding this thing the entire time. But it's got two little nipples for the spring to go in there, and you'll push like I just said. Drop your screw in there. Hopefully it's going to start. Okay, I've got a little Wheeler torque wrench, and I've got two different size bits. I'm just going to see which one fits the best real quick so I don't strip my screws out. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to start at 10 inch-pounds, which is the minimum on this one. And I'm just going to tighten them all up. Okay, now I'm going to go to 15 inch-pounds and tighten them all up. And that's where I'm going to leave this one, is at 15 inch-pounds. And I'm just going to put the butt plate back on. That's super simple. That's just two flathead screws. And then this gun will be done, minus the scope. Now I haven't committed to a new scope for this thing yet. So this gun is probably just going to sit until I get to the point of putting a new scope on there. But that's how you take apart one and clean it. Super simple. These are pretty easy to work on. You can do this with hand tools. You can make a spring compressor. There's plenty of plans online. And this is not a bad gun to learn on. You're not going to mess this up too bad. So if you're going to get one to take it apart and put it back together a few times, this is a good one to start on. You don't want to be ruining a $300 air rifle just learning. So that's what I suggest to do. Just get one with the plans to take it apart and put it back together. If you want to learn how to work on these a little bit, start on something simple like this that is easy to take apart and put back together. And if you tear it up, ain't no big deal. But that's it for this one today, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this long video. It's been a long time since I've made one like this, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you later.